Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 18. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Monday, Steelers Nation. It's officially Week 1 game on Thursday to kick off the NFL season. The Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the New York Jets 6 days from now. So, Dave, college football this past weekend, lots of great games, but NFL on the horizon.
Yeah, where did the offseason go now? Had an exciting weekend, watched a lot of college football. Boy, some good games, some not so good games. Very interesting. We have a lot to talk about here at the top of the show. And yeah, it's just good to have football back. And we've got an exciting week planned here. Obviously, Mike Tomlin talking to the media on Tuesday. The team returns back to practice today. And yeah, and I think we've got a new kind of segment to open up on Mondays during the season here, right?
We do something slightly different, but a lot of the same as well. Our friends at Touring Plans, who's been a great longtime training camp sponsor, will be a sponsor of the Terrible Podcast each Monday of the regular season as well. So we're really excited to continue that partnership and friendship with Len Testa and touringplans.com. We'll kind of make it a housekeeping with Touring Plans on Monday to talk about the housekeeping of the Pittsburgh Steelers over the weekend. It'll be more relevant, obviously, after games in terms of inactives and injuries and Saturday elevations and roster moves and all that kind of fun stuff. So not as much to talk about Brandon Johnson being officially waived injured. But before we do that, just want to shout out touringplans.com for those who don't know, for those who didn't listen to the special edition episodes of the Training Camp Podcast. Touring Plans is the go-to site to plan your trip to Disney, whether that's Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, anything affiliated with a Disney trip. You can use their app and their website to find tickets in a way to save money on tickets and restaurant reviews and how busy parks are at certain times, so you know when to hopefully skip those super, super long lines. So it's just going to make your trip the most efficient and informed as possible and reduce the stress that certainly can come with planning those trips and the itinerary and just trying to work everything out so you can focus on having fun with your family. So if you're planning a trip to Disney upcoming later this year or next year, next summer, maybe you're getting a jump on things, reach out to Touring Plans at their website. That is touringplans.com and tell them Steelers Depot sent you. So Dave, just give the quick skinny on the news on wide receiver Brandon Johnson.
Yeah, he and first and foremost, real quick, exciting with Touring Plans now having them as an in-season sponsor. They've obviously been a sponsor of the special edition podcast during training camp. Real quick, tell the people how that came about initially with you and Len Testa and Touring Plans, just to give a behind the scenes thing.
For this or from the very beginning?
From the very beginning.
Oh, man, honestly, I can't even think exactly the origin story of it. I know Len's a big-time Steelers fan and followed the site, and I believe just reached out and asked if something like this was possible to sponsor something. Maybe I'm missing a story. If you have one, feel free to add it, Dave. But it's just a Steelers fan that just has a passion for Disney and Steelers, and we love everything about it, and it just seemed natural to work with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that thing obviously has evolved and stayed consistent over the years when it came to the training camp episodes of the Terrible Podcast. And once again, just really thrilled to have him as a Monday sponsor throughout the week of the regular season here to kind of sponsor the housekeeping segment. About the housekeeping, as you mentioned, not a lot to talk about here from this past week here. Brandon Johnson, who was on IR after being waived injured, was waived injured with an injury settlement a few days ago. So there's that aspect of it there. We'll see if who's the defensive tackle? Dominic Davis is, I believe, was waived injured, still on IR. We'll see if anything happens here on Monday or Tuesday about him getting waived with an injury settlement. The Steelers do have a kind of a long list, if you will, players who appear to be starting off the regular season on IR as it sits right now. I believe that list includes Dean Lowry, Donald Parham Jr., ooh, who else? Gareth Warren's still on there. Cameron McCutcheon is still on there. Jacob Slade is still on there. Dominic Davis is still on there. And obviously Dante Kent and Will Howard went to IR last week, as did Corey Trice Jr. So this will probably get pared down by Dominic Davis, maybe with an injury settlement here in a few days. We'll see. The thing about Cameron McCutcheon is I think the window's kind of already passed for him to get an injury settlement. So we'll have to see what happens there. I think it was a hamstring injury, so maybe they'll just wait for him. It could even come this week with him maybe getting healthy and just getting waived out right from IR without an injury settlement. So I think that brings everybody kind of up to date on the most recent housekeeping. And obviously this segment will include, as you mentioned, inactives, injuries, and all those kind of things on Mondays moving forward.
Some other just very small housekeeping notes. Pittsburgh should name their team captains today. So by the time you listen to this, you probably know who they are. You probably could guess at them off the rip anyway. Aaron Rodgers, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Miles Killebrew. We'll see if any other name gets mentioned. Not official, so I'm just guessing at those. But those have been past captains, or the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, you would expect to be captain in his first year in Pittsburgh. Also, speaking of TJ Watt, he was named the 11th player in the NFL's top 100 for this past edition. The NFL, I think they had a really bad way to announce it. It took 3 months or so. It felt like all summer they've been teasing and drip of the NFL top 100, releasing 1 or 2 names a day. But Watt finally announced at number 11. I thought he'd come in a little bit lower because of the quote unquote down season and the quiet finish. So I think, just missing the top 10 is still really good for TJ Watt. Not that these things matter much, obviously, but that is where he slotted in at.
Yeah, what'd you think about the way they rolled that out this year?
Terrible.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not obviously they used to have the segments on TV and all, but it just the overall flow of it felt real clunky this year.
Yeah, literally 2+ months to release this list. They're finally, I think, doing the whole top 10 tonight. So no Steeler, of course, will appear then, but they're going to have to rethink that because that was way too drawn out. But anyway, that is the housekeeping edition of the podcast, sponsored by Touring Plans. Obviously, not a whole lot of news happening this weekend. Dave, the team was off from Thursday to Sunday, so guys got to get away. Some of them went back to their colleges. I know Connor Hayward was at Michigan State, where they won. Will Howard was at Ohio State, where they beat number 1 Texas. Howard was on the Pat McAfee Show Friday, talked about his rehab recovery. It's going well. He's getting back to throwing, of course, still on IR. Will miss at least the first 4 games of the season, and likely many more than that. But just from a health standpoint, he's in good spirits and taking it all in stride, and admitted that even though it sucks that he's hurt and he can't practice and he's not on the 53 right now, this was a developmental year, a year to watch, not a year to play, and he can still do all the things in terms of mental reps and meetings and absorb all he can from Rodgers and Rudolph and the NFL experience, even though he's still rehabbing and recovering.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to hear him talking. Obviously, quite a few. I think Jack Sawyer was at that game with him, and they had some fun. And let's see what else happened. The Steelers had obviously some scouts around some of these college games this past weekend. What'd you think about? I assume you got to watch some of these games. What'd you think about some of the quarterback play of some of these draft prospect quarterbacks?
Yeah, I didn't watch it from a super critical lens. Some of it was a little bit of background fodder. Some of it was watching. Probably disappointing overall. Obviously, the expectations for Arch Manning were super high and probably too high for the first full year starting. I know he's played a bit before, but going into Ohio State, facing that Matt Patricia defense, really had Texas in all kinds of a mess in this game. Thought Nussmeier had some plays. Norris Sellers certainly flashed last night or yesterday afternoon in a win over Virginia Tech. His strength, his athleticism. Some were even calling him a faster Big Ben because of his break sack ability, but he's a better athlete than Ben was. Thought Klubnik was disappointing against LSU. Thought there could be more from there, but it is 1 week. It's a long season. And so we're going to keep watching the whole way through.
Yeah, I've already started kind of charting some of these top quarterbacks, paying more attention during the regular season than normally do, especially with all the anticipation that the Steelers might be interested in a quarterback in the 2026 draft that will be held in Pittsburgh there. So I imagine a little more than normal we might be talking about some of these quarterbacks in college as the season progresses.
Yeah, there were a couple guys I thought had been interesting that had been flying under the radar some. I know Jonathan Heitritter, our draft guys, talked about it some. You got the Arkansas quarterback, what is it, Taylor Green, and Rocco Becht at Iowa State's a pretty tough guy. So John Mateer from Oklahoma. But obviously some of these we were facing, FCS schools, and they weren't all the marquee matchups. There were a couple of the big games we just mentioned, but we're going to have to keep watching, and certainly Pittsburgh and the scouting department will be watching as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave, from here, the Steelers play the Jets Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. By the way, we're going to have a great guest on the Friday show, Zach Rosenblatt, who covers the Jets for The Athletic. So we'll get back into our weekly interview with the opposing beat writer to get the skinny on New York. We'll, of course, talk about the game a lot more on Friday. We have some tape watch to do and get a feel for their health situation. The Jets seem to be in better shape health-wise. Maybe they once were, during training camp when there were some injuries to Fields and Tyrod Taylor and others. So just kind of 30,000-foot view, what are your initial thoughts and feelings going into this Jets game?
First and foremost, it's hard to get around the marquee matchup of two obviously quarterbacks that were with the opposite teams last season there, and we'll have to see. We obviously don't know the Jets media schedule. I don't know if Aaron Glenn talks on Monday or Tuesday, but we're all queued up to kind of follow that, to follow all the press conferences this week. Yeah, I haven't gotten deep. I mean, obviously, you only had the preseason tape to go off of, and Justin Fields didn't play all that much. But I think first and foremost, one of the keys to this game, especially on the defensive side of football, when it comes to the Steelers, is that you just can't let Justin Fields beat you with your legs first and foremost. And the Jets have a formidable front on their defensive front, so you got to keep that in bay. I would expect us to see some things when it comes to the Steelers and running the football and using a lot more 13 and 12 personnel, things that we didn't really see a lot of during the preseason. So I just can't wait to see the Steelers kind of take more of a wrapper off of what they intend to do offensively when it comes to this game. I think they kept a lot of things kind of under wraps, were obviously and predictably real vanilla during the preseason here. So I don't you can't let Justin Fields kill you with his legs, and then you can't let that Jets defensive front kill you and get after Aaron Rodgers.
I know Mike Tomlin talked about stacking and loading up at cornerback this year to play more man coverage, to be a team that feels like they can play man-to-man against anyone in the NFL, Bengals included. But how much man do you play in this game given Justin Fields' legs? Because whenever you're in man coverage, eyes are not on the quarterback, not on the ball, your back is turned, and Fields can obviously escape. Do you play more zone, especially on third down, to make sure you minimize his running ability?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And this is a defensive team that we expect to play a lot of man at certain parts during this season. And what did Mike Tomlin say a couple times? You got to play man, play man a lot, especially when you face teams like the Bengals and some of these teams loaded at wide receiver. But on the flip side, when you do play a team with a mobile quarterback, such as the case with Justin Fields and the Jets, when you play man, a lot of times your eyes aren't back looking at him. So in instance, you better have a good containment system and pocket collapse, because as we unfortunately, we didn't get to see Justin Fields use his legs probably enough, last season with the Steelers. But, that was one of the things that we were kind of looking for on the history of Justin Fields, even before or when he was signed to the Steelers last offseason and all. So, Yeah, I mean that is a guy that we've seen in the past throughout his NFL career rattle off those 40, 50, 60-yard runs. Unfortunately, didn't get to see that with the Steelers, but doesn't mean that he can't do it. And you have to expect that the Jets will potentially utilize his legs a lot more, obviously, than they were utilized in Pittsburgh.
Who has the bigger advantage in this game, just big picture perspective? The Steelers, because they had Fields last year. They know how he thinks. They know his strengths, his weaknesses. They help coach him up and mold him, and I think make him a better player leaving Pittsburgh than he was entering it after his tough time in Chicago. Or does Fields have the advantage because he's probably a better player now than he was this time a year ago, and he knows, of course, how Pittsburgh and that defense thinks and operates?
Well, I think when you look at Steelers defensively, there's a lot of changes, right?
True.
Ramsey in, Slay. It feels like we're going to see aspects of this defense that we really haven't seen in more recent times. So I think and look, they'll obviously go into this game knowing. Trying to plan around what they think Justin Fields thinks that the old cat and mouse game anyway, especially when you have former quarterbacks on the other side there. But advantage, look, I mean, you've got a really, really experienced quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, and anything that he sees, regardless of it might be a new wrinkle, you would think that his ability to decipher is going to be better than that of Justin Fields. So, and then look, the Steelers coaching staff for the most part has remained intact, whereas the Jets have a new coaching staff. You know, the things about going into a new season with a new coaching staff and trying to shuffle personnel on and communication and how it's important to kind of work those things out. So I would give the Steelers the edge just overall, just because of the continuity aspect of it, even with a new quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, than I would on the Jets side of things, because they do have a new and relatively younger and inexperienced, still relatively inexperienced, I guess, especially compared to Aaron Rodgers, playing and starting games at quarterback there. So I would essentially give the edge to the Steelers overall from several aspects that I just noted there.
I think I would too. Obviously, it can cut both ways. There is a level of being familiar with one another, but I think Pittsburgh has the upper hand overall because, as you said, defensively, there are some changes there, not just in personnel. I know obviously the head coach and the DC are the same, and so schematically some things will be similar, but Pittsburgh is touted and talked about, and I think kind of teased some schematic changes this year and doing things differently than 1 year ago. Although on the Jets end, they're an unknown entity in a lot of ways as well. It's a rookie head coach. It's a new regime in there. And so you can't just watch a Jets tape from last year because it's a whole new, ball of wax over there. And Mike Tomlin has not had the greatest success against some of these rookie head coaches. I don't know if he had to face a rookie head coach last year. I know he faced some new coaches in new roles with Raheem Morris going back to Atlanta and Harbaugh with the Chargers, but those aren't first time wearing the headset in that head coach role. Was there any head coach that was brand new that Tomlin and the Steelers faced last year, Dave? Do you know?
Let me roll down through the schedule here. Sean Payton had already been there, and he's obviously faced him before. The Chargers and Harbaugh back.
Right, new to the team, but not a rookie head coach to
Okay.
the NFL.
What
the way
about
that
the
Aaron
Colts?
Glenn is. No, Steichen has been there for a little
Okay.
bit.
Commanders. No. I don't think so. No.
Right. So you go back to 2 years ago, there were some big time struggles there, right? You had Jonathan Gannon, I believe, in Arizona. I mean, you had a couple of, I think that might have been Steichen's first year, if memory serves. So for whatever it's worth, just Tomlin's track record has not been great recently. I know last year you faced Antonio Pierce, who was first time in the full-time head coach role with the Raiders, but he had been interim head coach for the back half of 2023, replacing the midseason firing of Josh McDaniels. So anyway, point is, there's some newness, obviously, on both sides. Yeah, you talked about the newness for the Steelers offense and the difference there with Rodgers and using more of the multi-tight end personnel that you're going to see. That's very much a fixture of the Arthur Smith offense. Defensively, I want to see the changes too, because as I mentioned, Pittsburgh has really, and you saw this in training camp a bit too. I think you saw some more sim pressure and mugging the inside linebackers and maybe more man coverage. Perhaps not in this game, but throughout the season. So even though it is or the same head coach, same DC, schematically, Pittsburgh has talked so much about needing to do things differently. I really want to see what those small wrinkles are this season.
Yeah, remember right after Ramsey was acquired, and at that point already had Slay in there in the fold at that point, and Juan Thornhill had already been added, but the what Mike Tomlin had pretty much said right out of the chute, come the start of training camp was that things were going to be different. Going to see those three corners on the field a lot, and those guys playing a lot, and that in and of itself was very exciting at the time, because he made a point to drill that home several times, and since then, obviously the team had added Chuck Clark and all, but that is the exciting aspect of it. And look, one of the things that I kind of wondered about going into training camp that I feel a little bit better about right now was the rebuilding of this defensive line. And obviously we'll have to watch at the start of the season and we'll learn a little bit this week about Derek Harmon and a prognosis about whether or not he's going to play through that knee injury he suffered late in the preseason and all like that. But when Derek Harmon did play, and yes, preseason's preseason, I thought when healthy, Derek Harmon kind of progressed throughout the preseason, and man, the story pretty much coming out of the preseason and training camp is YA Black, and that guy looks like he's ready to play. He looks like he's able to do some things that we didn't necessarily, that we kind of wondered about, especially with the pass rush for him. And I'm excited to see how much they move. TJ Watt moving around has obviously been a big discussion since the end of last season. I don't think we're going to see it a ton, but I think we will see it as teams to try to take away certain instances, maybe where he gets kind of the full attention. It will be interesting to see how many kind of Bronco packages maybe we see with the three outside linebackers on the field as well, and that was something I think that you pointed out quite a bit, especially last season when all those guys were healthy. And remember that was kind of interrupted by several of those outside linebacker injuries, right? You had Herbig go down, you had Highsmith with a groin, and then I think an ankle, and then obviously TJ Watt being banged up later on in the season with that ankle injury there. So if they can keep, I guess what I'm trying to get to here is my biggest concern was maybe about the defensive front going into training camp in the preseason. I feel a little bit better about that. And I definitely feel better about the second line and the third line of this defense. Talking about the inside linebacker group, man, this you look around the league, this should be one of the better, deeper inside linebacker groups in the NFL, you would think. And then you look at the secondary and you add a guy like Jalen Ramsey, you add a guy like Darius Slay. You obviously have Deshaun Elliott coming off of the great season that he had first year in Pittsburgh last year. You had a very experienced guy in Chuck Clark, who we'll have to see how he's utilized in all this. A very strong communicator in the back end here. And this team's not going to go anywhere in 2025 unless it's getting the turnovers, which they had last year, but they didn't have the sacks. That number fell below that 50 mark, and we've got to see that return to 50. So if the Steelers are going to win a lot of games this year, it's going to be because they're playing good defense, they're keeping the score down, they're having better quality rock fights, if you will.
And they were well below 50 last year, 40 last season for a team that played with a lead quite a bit, at least until the very end of the season. So that was as disappointing as anything last year. So yeah, that Bronco package will be really interesting. Depend a little bit on Nick Herbig's status with the hamstring pull. Mike Tomlin, whenever he last spoke, was uncertain about his status for week one. Tomlin will hold his press conference on Tuesday, tomorrow, so maybe we'll get some more information. First injury report will come out on Wednesday. If Harmon does not play, and I'm expecting Harmon to miss this game, that may lean on using some more three outside linebacker packages on third down in those specialty situations, because your D-line depth in your D-line rotation won't be quite as strong. Obviously, Black will be there. Other guys will mix in, but until Harmon gets back, he'll be playing a little bit shorthanded there. What is the concern, if any, for this defense? On paper, it looks strong. The front seven looks good, and you expect it to play well. It needs to play well. What is the weakness for the defense? For me, it's that safety spot still. Thornhill had a really nice camp, but he's not Minka Fitzpatrick. How well can those guys tackle? Now, Elliott's not a concern. Elliott's a great tackler. I'm very confident in him, but those guys have to still play top down, keep a lid on things, tackle well in space, both in the pass and certainly fitting the run, because those are all things Minka Fitzpatrick did at a really high, consistent level.
Yeah, I understand you pointing out, the safety situation there, and even though I just said that I felt better about the defensive line as a whole, better than I did maybe at the start of training camp and all, you still have to go out there and prove that you've made strides in stopping the run, right?
Sure, sure.
Especially what we saw late down the stretch last year, because you know what you're up against here, especially teams like the Ravens and some of these other strong quality running teams that are going to probably, because of the Steelers front and ability to pass rush and the way they're probably going to play on defense, teams are going to try to test the Steelers right out of the chute just to see how good that running game actually is. And hopefully we're not talking about what a big loss maybe a guy like a Landon Roberts was during the offseason. I think we both agreed coming out of last season, we kind of thought they should and would re-sign a guy like a Landon Roberts, but obviously they went a different direction that way, and now it's Peyton Wilson's time to shine. You get Cole Holcomb back, and then in comes Malik Harrison via free agency and all like that. So I would say I'm less worried about keeping a lid on things over the top than I am this defense coming out at the start of the season and proving that you better not, you can't run against them.
But this is a defense that wants to be aggressive. They have alpha playmaking type of guys in the secondary. Ramsey, I think Thornhill shares that mentality. Obviously, not the talent of Jalen Ramsey, but that is his style of play, I think. And Slade's been a playmaker throughout his career, even though it's certainly on the not just the back nine, but probably whole 18, the last season of his career. And so you got to walk that line between being aggressive, making plays, being opportunistic, but also not being reckless and not getting beat, because facing some good Jets receivers, especially Garrett Wilson for week number 1, and Justin Fields can still sling the ball downfield. So it's always that tough line to walk, but I think Pittsburgh will have to really walk it well.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll obviously be monitoring. Look, and I've said this several times during the offseason here, going back to what this team ended up with, even without the sacks last year, their adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat on defense wasn't bad. Obviously, it wasn't good enough because, especially that only takes into account passing, and we all know what happened against the run. But I mean, if this team can get the takeaways that it had last season, increase those sacks overall, you would think that they would be able to lower that number some on as far as the analytics go on the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat. If they're able to do that, this team once again should win some games because there's not many teams that put up that stat of low 5 point something or even below. Keep your fingers crossed so you can even get it below 5.0. But I mean, if you get it down to 5.1 or something like that, they're going to be in a lot of games. And I think that's kind of what they're counting on, is stopping a run. Don't give up those big plays, get those takeaways in the sacks. And obviously, as Keith Butler used to always like to say, keep that score around 17, 18 points. And if you do that in multiple games, you are going to be in a lot of games and win your fair share of games, I think.
To bring it back to the Jets for week 1, talked about Fields. What other offensive players do you want to look at in this game day from the Jets' perspective? Some key names to note there. Obviously, as I said, Garrett Wilson at wide receiver, Alan Lazard, Rodgers' former teammate, still with New York, Breece Hall at running back. Offensive line, a little bit like Pittsburgh, some young guys, some high draft picks up front, some uncertainty in terms of how well they can play. there's some similarities there between, I think, Pittsburgh and the Jets.
Yeah, you got that Olu Fashanu, I think, starting at left tackle again. John Simpson, we're familiar with him from his time in Baltimore. Did they ever decide who their starting center was going to be? I remember there was some talk about there was a battle going on between Josh Myers and Joe Tipman. I don't know if that. I know Tipman is listed first on the depth chart, but I thought I'd read something about that last week or something 2 weeks ago about maybe there being a battle going on over there.
Glenn was very coy. He just said who's starting at center. I think
there'll
he
be
said
a center.
Will still be a
That's
center
right.
starting, and he said the battle was still going on. So we do not know for sure who the starting center is.
Josh Reynolds is a talented wide receiver over there. Look, take Garrett. Well, here's here's my Captain Obvious defensive game plan.
Okay.
Take. We already talked about you got to watch Justin Fields and his legs, right?
Sure.
You that guy can explosive play you 2 or 3 times a game just by using his legs. Outside of that, eliminate Garrett Wilson from this thing. I imagine you're going to see a lot of Ramsey following him around, and especially if Garrett comes in the slot there. But eliminate Garrett Wilson. I have to make Justin Fields beat me with his. Well, we talked about the run, obviously, and Breece Hall runs very well outside of the guards. I think that's one thing that stuck out to me when looking at all that tape from Aaron Rodgers last season with the Jets and the Jets running game. They really like to attack outside the guards with Breece Hall, and he's a name everybody's familiar with, obviously, and all. But if you can stop the legs of Justin Fields and limit him maybe to just one explosive play with his legs, and if you can wipe out Garrett Wilson and limit his catches to 3 or 4 for 40 something yards, I'll take my chances with Justin Fields trying to beat me with his arm, trying to go to the likes of Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard.
You make a really good point about Garrett Wilson, because we've seen Jalen Ramsey play a lot in the slot this training camp and this preseason in Pittsburgh's nickel packages. He's inside. He plays safety in their base 3-4. So will he go on the outside now and shadow and take on that number 1 guy in Garrett Wilson? Or will they continue that plan of keeping Ramsey in the slot and not playing a lot of outside corner? I wonder how they're going to juggle that. I mean, you would assume that Ramsey will see some outside snaps, at least maybe on third down, some big time moments. But okay, if that's the case, then who's playing in the slot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something obviously we're going to find out. But I go back to what Ramsey had said during the pivot interview with Ryan Clark and all, and saying, I don't like being bored, staying on one side. So yeah. It feels like everything that he said and Mike Tomlin has said leading up to this, that you're going to see Jalen Ramsey just move all over the place. Now, will he 1-for-1 follow around Garrett Wilson outside, inside? I mean, we'll see. I don't think that will be bad. And I think you're right. The big question is what happens if you have those 3 corners on the field and Jalen Ramsey's manning an outside spot. And obviously, you would have probably Joey Porter on the other side. Who do you shift inside? Mike Tomlin really praised Brandon Eccles about kind of the work that he's done, and we did see a little bit of him. I think, playing inside. So potentially that we could see, I don't know, who would that be? Probably Josh Reynolds on Eccles, probably.
Or Lazard. Lazard's been a big slot throughout his career. So yeah, that was kind of my thought. Would it be some moments where Darius Slay comes off the field and Eccles comes in the slot, and so it's Ramsey and Porter on the outside, Ramsey on Wilson, and those are your 3 corners? I think that's something we could see a little bit of in this game.
Yeah. Would you just have Ramsey just shadow Garrett all game and just take your chances elsewhere?
No, I like Ramsey because you have 3 good corners. It's not that you have 1 good corner, and Pittsburgh really likes their cornerbacks top to bottom, Porter and Slay. Even though Ramsey is your number 1, there's no question about that going into this season. But I like Ramsey from the nickel to stop the run, to blitz, to present some different matchups there. So I would shadow Ramsey on Wilson, and those got to have moments. Third down, obvious pass, 2-minute. That's when I would play Ramsey outside. Also, because if you're playing Ramsey outside all game, then you have an issue in terms of the slot, and you taking Slay off the field and you putting Eccles on, and you want to get Slay his reps as well. So I would have Ramsey shadow in those big time moments.
All right. I mean, it goes without. I mean, obviously you got some key components on this Steelers defense, right? Cameron Hayward, T.J. Watt. Talk about the inside linebackers in Queen and Peyton Wilson. But you want to talk about what it sounds like that this defense is formed around was the addition of Jaylen Ramsey. That's one guy that's got to stay healthy and on the field this year, right?
Yeah, no question about that. But I think just, again, looking at this Jets game without digging into their tape too much yet, and obviously there's just a lot of unknown when you're facing a new regime in New York. There's no even past regular season games. If you're playing them in week 4, you can go back and watch the first couple weeks and get a sense of what that outfit's like. Now, obviously, Aaron Glenn, you can go back to Detroit and the track record there and what he likes to do. He wants to be aggressive, and he's good with rolling with the punches. And they had all the injuries last year. They were generally able to combat, but for me, it's all comes back to trenches. And for the Jets offensive line, it's a young group. For Shanu, first full-time year at left tackle. Membu, the rookie right tackle. You're facing T.J. Watt in your first NFL game. You got potentially some youth and some questions at center. So, that Pittsburgh defensive line / outside linebackers have to really have their weight pushed around in this game in a positive way, where that pass rush is winning, the interior defensive line is winning at the point of attack. It's a talented Jets offensive line. There's some people there, but I think Pittsburgh has to make that group look like a young group trying to coalesce, similar to Pittsburgh, but hopefully Pittsburgh obviously has better results.
Here's a good question for you. Knowing what you know now, and then looking at the schedule, is this, if you had to pick a week 1 opponent for the Steelers, and once again, the new coaching staff over there and Fields' first game as a Jet, would you handpick I guess where I'm going here is, knowing what you know now, would you handpick the Jets as the Steelers' first week 1 opponent for this season?
So you're asking if I could craft any matchup most favorable to Pittsburgh for the season opener, would I pick the Jets?
Yeah.
I would not. I don't know exactly who I would pick. Maybe the Browns. Give me an AFC North game to try to win week 1. But just facing a new regime that you just don't know much about always creates some level of trepidation. And I don't like facing that and having to be that first kind of guinea pig to, okay, what is the Aaron Glenn regime experience going to be like there? So the Jets would not be my first choice.
All right. So because of the newness then and the unknown, I
Yes.
tend to think, and the reason I was going with that is I would tend to think, based on what I think that I know about the Jets already, I think I would handpick them.
But that's a dangerous thing to think
Yeah.
what we know about them, because
Yeah.
we don't always know what we know about them, or our assumptions can get us into trouble sometimes.
Yeah, I'd much rather face Justin Fields on limited preseason snaps and a new head coaching staff and all like that week 1 of the season than I would say week 4 of the season.
So you'd rather face the Jets than, say, the Browns for a week 1?
Browns would be a close second for sure. But we've seen what Joe Flacco did.
Sure. But this time you're preparing for Flacco. The
Yeah.
Colts game last year was preparing for Richardson. He gets hurt. It's a whole new game plan. Pittsburgh did not adjust well. They did a bad job, but the circumstances would be different. They've certainly had success against Flacco throughout his career.
Right. All things considered, I still think I would pick the Jets as my hand-pick week 1 game.
What would have
Hopefully
been the
that
worst?
don't come back to bite.
We'll find out in a week from now when we talk again. What would have been the worst week 1 opponent for Pittsburgh? I feel like we're in a May episode talking about the schedule and the release, but what do you think would have been just the worst matchup for the Steelers to have in week 1? The Jets are certainly not the worst matchup to have, and it's intriguing, and the schedule makers, the powers that be, obviously made this game very intentional, the week 1 slate.
Obviously, I think Baltimore, Cincinnati out of the chute would have been very, very, very tough for sure.
But what about fair? And I think Buffalo as well. You're facing them in week 13. What would have been a sneaky bad game for Pittsburgh? I think he had to go to Chicago week 1, even though Rodgers historically owned Chicago, to face Ben Johnson, another rookie head coach, very creative. That would have been, I think, a danger zone for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because I mean, even though you think that you know what you know about Ben Johnson and his time in Detroit, uh, I can understand the reasoning on that.
And Pittsburgh generally does not win the coaching schematic matchup. You don't often talk about the Steelers' coaching game plan really taking it to the opposition, and that's certainly going to be Ben Johnson's strength.
All right. Yeah, I agree.
All right, so opposite ends of Detroit, you had Glenn, who went from Detroit to the Jets, Ben Johnson, OC, Detroit to the Chicago Bears, but we'll see that later this year. Any other thoughts here on the Jets? Just big picture, week one?
No, interested to hear, and we'll pass it along more on Wednesday what Glenn and injury report and all looks like for the Jets, and then obviously on the Steelers side, Harmon and I know Nick Herbig's trying to work through something, and we'll get a better picture of who's in and who's out, and we talked about what we'll look forward to some of the elevations potentially happening on Saturday before they get out of town and travel. Expect to see James Pierre elevated. We gave good reasons of why potentially maybe DeMarvin Leal might be a second elevation for this game as well too. So we'll learn more as the week goes on, and we'll cap it off with probably a great Friday episode with Zach Rosenblatt, who covers the Jets.
At the risk of doing more off-season rehashing, because we are in this calm before the storm, this quiet period for the Steelers, I did my Steelers official 2025 stat predictions for Monday, and I just want to, I don't want to get too into the weeds because we've talked a lot about this offseason about what are reasonable stat predictions for Rodgers and Metcalf and company. So I just want to kind of get your sense and if I'm shooting too high or too low on some of these people. So Aaron Rodgers, my
You
stat
can't tell
predictions.
me you don't want to get into the weeds and expect me to not get in the weeds. But okay,
Well,
I'll try to play by your rules here.
I'm being polite and just trying to give that the appearance that we're trying not to, but I know we're both going to go down some rabbit holes here, I'm sure. So my Rodgers stat predictions in health obviously can impact so much, and it's hard to do stats when you never know who's going to miss time. But this is assuming Rodgers starts all 17 games as he did last season and has throughout most of his career. 342 completions, 538 attempts, 3,691 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. I know I've gone back and forth a lot on the passing yards and why they might be a bit lower than some think, but when I dug into the numbers for real this time to make this post, last year, Dave, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields combined for 3,588 passing yards. It's hard to see Rodgers having less than that, given his acumen as a quarterback and probably more trust in him this year if he starts all 17 games. So ultimately, that's why I came in higher than the figure last year.
Let's see. I have not checked the latest stuff on the official over under for Aaron Rodgers, but I think at last glance, back in the middle of July, it was 3,200.5 was the
Hey,
over.
can I interrupt you here for a
All right.
second, Dave? We have some news. Jaylen Warren getting a 2-year extension, according to his group, and Mike Garafolo tweeting that as well. But his agency noting an extension is his agent David Cantor in the Aura Sports Group. So Jaylen Warren getting a deal before the year starts.
Wow, didn't we
Yeah.
kind of wondered about whether or not I didn't think he would going back through some of the off-season stuff here. But obviously the Steelers, you had him on a second year restricted tender, and they evidently like enough want him around past this season here. So that is some interesting news to interrupt this show with here.
Yeah, what a way to start his 2025 season as that lead back in Pittsburgh. And Warren, what a story for him. Undrafted, started at Snow College, a JUCO, bounced around a bunch of different places, made the roster, really impressed right away, cut his teeth on special teams. So we don't know the value of that deal, I don't believe yet. I don't think that's been part of the initial reports. I'm not sure what number to expect. I hadn't given it a whole lot of thought. Wasn't expecting it. I don't know if it's 7 million, 8 million per year, so 14 million. I just don't have any expectation right now. But yeah, good for Jaylen Warren. What a success story he's been.
Let's see here. He was obviously his restricted tender was 5.346 million. and to get him to sign that, that's probably going to come in around a new money, probably average of around $7 million, I would guess.
Yeah, so that's kind of the number that I just shot out there. So we'll see. Maybe we'll have that out by the time the podcast wraps up, or 8 seconds after, as usual. But wow, yeah, that is not one that was on our bingo card, like you said, but well deserved, I think. We'll see what the money is. So he was going to be an unrestricted free agent after this year, obviously, and no longer will be. So is this an extension through 2027 then? Signed for 26,
sounds like
27?
It sounds like it would be through 2027. Obviously, there will be no guaranteed money past this year, right? At least you
You wouldn't
wouldn't
expect.
think. But you would probably expect him to get maybe a couple of more million added on to this year as far as cash goes. And this should wind up lowering his cap number a little bit for 2025 as well, too. So it'll be interesting to see
Right.
the numbers come out in the wash here. So I would imagine something like they took his full took like four something million of his of his 5 million salary this year, turned that into a signing bonus, would say maybe, I don't know, 3 million more, something like that. So his signing bonus might end up being about 7.5 million, perhaps. And then that stretched out over 3 years, obviously. So his cap number probably lower by, I don't know, 1.5 million or so, something like that.
Any other contracts that could be coming? Obviously, the Cam Hayward, Chris Boswell situation, still no finality on that. Pittsburgh has no obligation to do anything, but you would think something may happen there, especially with Boswell.
Yeah, we're obviously waiting to see what's going to maybe happen with, as you mentioned, Hayward or Boswell. Does any new cash? We're not expecting extensions for either one, but potentially new cash involved with both of those guys. And then the other guy that we've gone back and forth with, or at least discussing, was Calvin Austin III, right?
Right. So I don't know if that one's going to happen, but I didn't think Warren was going to happen either. So I think everything's on the table as Omar Khan is able to shake things up and certainly surprise us.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If you could get Warren to sign such a deal with just a little bit more additional cash in 2025, sure. I
Yeah,
just
there's no
kind of
risk.
Yeah, I just kind of wondered if they would actually go that route with him, especially on the heels of drafting a guy like Caleb Johnson. But the Steelers obviously hammered it out, and we'll see what the numbers say.
And obviously, does not mean that Caleb Johnson's frozen out of this offense. The Warren is not
Right.
Le'Veon Bell. He's not going to be this 300 carry, tote the rock, workhorse back kind of a dude. The system, the scheme, this era in the NFL lends itself to committees and timeshares and splitting the workload. And certainly that will be the case with Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson. So it shouldn't necessarily change the circumstances too much and expectations for Caleb Johnson this year. I can no longer keep repeating the same stat I did before, Dave. I just tweeted this out. Jaylen Warren, the first Steelers running back to get a contract extension since Willie Parker in August of 2006.
Wow.
And how about it for two UDFAs, Parker and Warren, getting those deals? So that streak has finally ended almost 20 years later.
Well, here's the thing now. You lock up, Adam, assuming Jaylen Warren stays healthy and has a good season, you don't have to worry about him flying the coop as an unrestricted free agent next offseason. You've secured technically your backfield for, you would think, at least the next 2 seasons there. And now you looking forward to the 2026 draft. You wouldn't think that this team, unless it did so late in the draft, have to address the running back position, especially on the heels of drafting Caleb Johnson, where you got him this year. So it makes sense. I just wondered if they could get Jaylen Warren to sign a deal.
Right, because if he had a big year, then he may cash
Right.
in even more in the offseason, be it in Pittsburgh or somewhere else.
Right. I wasn't against them getting an extension done. I just wondered if they would be able to get an extension done with him because of his side of things. So once again, assuming there's no guaranteed money past 2025 in this, and there shouldn't be. If something happens, he just falls off the face of the earth. Well, then you just have the dead money for having to part ways, and obviously it would have to take something extreme for Jaylen Warren at this point not to at least see the 2026 season with this team.
And you make a good point about let's lock up the running back room so it's not a priority or an issue next season, because you have so many other things you may have to draft. Quarterback, obviously, potentially wide receiver. Who knows what else pops up? We'll see how the tackles do, especially Broderick Jones this year. So it just kind of doesn't necessarily fully set that room, but takes really any sort of meaningful draft capital potentially at running back off the table.
Yeah, and look, here's something else, because of me looking at the cash situation that this team had and all, they're right up against what I and slightly over cash expenditure for 2025, what I thought they would be. And I was still waiting to see what's going to happen with Boswell and obviously Cam Hayward here. And then now you throw what we probably are thinking is probably around $2 to $2.5 million additional cash towards Jaylen Warren. So that's yet another reason why I didn't see this one coming.
Yeah, so we have not got, I don't believe, the official numbers yet, but I assume they're going to start trickling out here soon, and hopefully we can get those numbers before our podcast wraps up. So that is the breaking news on Jaylen Warren this Monday.
How about that? Let's see here. You look at some of these running backs here. Obviously, Jaylen Warren's new money average ahead of this was the price of his tender, $5.346 million. For him to jump up the rank, you've got ahead of him Bijan Robinson, who's obviously still on his rookie deal. Devin Singletary at $5.5 million. Obviously, Warren's new money average should exceed that. And then the next jump up is Tony Pollard with the Titans at $7.25 million. I would imagine that Warren's going to jump him. I guess the question is will he jump the next guy, or the next two guys on the list are DeAndre Swift with the Bears at $8 million new money average, and Chuba Hubbard with the Panthers at $8.3 million. So that is the sweet spot's probably going to be somewhere between new money average of 8.5 to probably 7.5, I would think would be kind of the expectations here.
Can I put you on the spot and make you call your shot? Can you give me the exact new money average? It's going to be between those numbers you just outlined, but if I made you pick one particular number as your best guess of what that number will be, what do you say?
Oh, wow.
You go straight split it and go 8?
I will go. No, I think he'll top Chuba Hubbard here at 8.3. So I will go 8.35 million new money average for Jaylen Warren.
Final answer, 8.35?
That's my final answer.
All right, we'll find out. That's a good guess, and hopefully we can answer that before today wraps up. So Jaylen Warren is one of those guys, a ball of energy, just high effort, never takes his helmet off, runs to the end zone every single rep, just true blue, salt of the earth kind of dude, puts his hand in the vial, has done literally everything the team has asked him to, all the dirty grunt work. He doesn't do special teams anymore in terms of running down punts and kicks, but he was doing that to make the team his rookie season. Third down, pass protection, still I think a really good pass protecting back overall, although not quite as good as he was his first or second year, so hopefully he can return to form, and just a dude that just plays lights out all the time, never takes a rep off, and so well-deserved contract.
Write that 8.35 million down, SpongeBob.
All right, Patrick, you got it. 8.35 million. So let's go back to our stat predictions. One on Warren is upcoming, but with Rodgers, just to recap, I had 3,691 yards, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Again, the yards, I think the over-under that you referenced was like 3,200 or something on Rodgers, which at the time I thought maybe that makes sense if his attempts are really down, his yards per attempt is around what it's been the last couple of years, but I don't see Rodgers throwing for less than the under 3,600 that Russ and Fields had last year.
I'll take the under your number and the over 3,200.5 number. I envision this probably being around 3,300, right around in there.
Okay, what about touchdowns? The magic number I've been trying to get this team to get to is 25 passing touchdowns as a team. They keep falling just short. They did so last year when I was optimistic that that streak would end. It hasn't happened in the post-Ben era. Does Rodgers and the quarterback collective get 25 plus passing touchdowns this year? I'm at 24.
I like that number. I do like that number.
So you're going to push on 25? If I told you the over-under this year is 24.5 on Steelers passing touchdowns.
I'll take the under.
You'll take the under?
I'll take the
I
under.
thought you liked 25.
I like 24.
Oh, you like 24.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so you're holding hands with me on 24 touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Let's go to running back now. And speaking of Jaylen Warren, my projections, and initially I thought the carries was going to be lower, but then just doing the math, I came up higher on his carries. 218 carries, 972 yards, a 4.5 yards per carry average, and 7 rushing touchdowns. Over under 972 yards for Jaylen Warren rushing.
I will take under that. I'm viewing it more about 850.
Does the 5 second ago contract news sway that at all in your mind?
Nah, not really. I just think that they're going to want to, as the season goes on, probably, and get Caleb Johnson involved in this thing a little bit. I mean, it took almost everything they could do to get Najee Harris to 1,000 yards. So you're putting Jaylen Warren almost right on top of 1,000-yard season there. I expect it to be a little lower than what you have.
Fair, but Warren hopefully more explosive, hopefully a better offensive line. Harris was a guy that was going to get you 3.9, 4.0 yards per carry. So I don't know if Warren needs the volume that Harris does to get to 1,000. I still have him under 1,000 too. With Caleb Johnson, you may go higher here. My projections, 167 carries, 773 yards, 4.6 yards per carry average, and 6 touchdowns. So on the yards, 773 over under.
I might take just slightly under that. I view it coming in maybe 675, so about 100 yards less than that.
Okay. I wonder if my carries were a little too optimistic, and some may say I'm underestimating the carries, but I still think he may struggle to see consistent playing time, especially early, just given some of the rawness in his game as a receiver, as a blocker. With Kenneth Gainwell, I put him at 55 carries. I wonder if it's going to be higher than that. Do I have 55 carries for 224 yards to 4.1 yards per carry average and 1 touchdown? Over under carries and yards on Kenneth Gainwell.
What do we talk about total carries for Gainwell? What was the conversation we had about him touching the? I viewed it as him easily having more. I thought I said more catches than rushes. It feels like you're a little rich on the carries, I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if the top two stay healthy.
And maybe not enough. Let's see, because I could view him going over the 25 catches that you have by a little bit, and definitely under the 55 carries that you have. Because 55, what's 55 divided by 17?
Yeah, that's 3.2 per game. I mean, this is a guy that's going to still carry the ball some. You saw him get first run in preseason action over Caleb Johnson. Pittsburgh was still very careful with Kenneth Gainwell and his usage overall. It all suggests there's going to be an active role offensively. Obviously, injuries can impact things, and if someone gets hurt in front of him, the carries are going to go up and up. But even if they stay healthy, I think 55 is a reasonable number. I think it could be undershooting things a little bit.
All right, maybe I am. I envision him definitely being used in the passing game.
Sure.
Not so much in the carries game.
All right, fair enough. And then I have Jonnu Smith for fun. 3 carries, 21 yards, and a touchdown as Arthur Smith gets him in the backfield once or twice or 3 times.
Yeah, on that
I think we'll see it.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm laughing with you. I think
okay,
not at you. Yeah.
Just my natural reaction to my life experiences. So
I'll take the under of the 3.
for Warren, Johnson, and Gainwell?
No. For Johnny Smith.
Oh, for his carries on the under of his carries.
I'll put it at 2.
But you think he will get some carries this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll break that out twice at least. Yeah.
The receiving DK Metcalf, we debated this number a lot. You, me, Ross, Joe Clark over on the Depot Dive. Check that out each week, each Tuesday. But DK Metcalf, my final projection, 72 catches, 1,006 yards. So just crossing the 4-digit mark, 14.0 yards per catch, and 7 touchdowns. So 72, 1,006, and 7.
Yeah, that's look, I just completed a high dollar fantasy draft, and I got DK Metcalf. Where did I get DK Metcalf at in this? Do you remember what round? I posted it in the chat.
I don't remember.
You
like 5th, 6th round. You got him 7th round. It was somewhere around there.
I can find here, but I mean, I just think that the global consensus. Where did I get him at? I'm killing time here. Oh, I got him 5th round, 9th pick in the 5th round in a 12-teamer, and he was my 4th wide receiver that I drafted, I think, as well, 3rd or 4th wide receiver. I've always kind of thought, especially since this team hasn't added, a better wide receiver to go across for him. I've kind of wondered. I definitely don't think he's going to hit the 1,000-yard mark. I do kind of wonder if he'll hit even the 900 receiving yard mark. I'm okay. I hope you're right here because that'll help my fantasy team and help the Steelers obviously as well too. I'd like.
Wait, what did you say? You think he definitely won't hit 1,000? Did I miss that?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to hit 1,000 yards receiving.
You're pretty confident in that. I think.
Yeah.
He might come under, but Rodgers is going to. I know that.
I kind of wonder if he's going to hit 900, and he has.
Why are you so low on Metcalf?
I just because of I think they're going to spread the ball around so much in here, and I think teams are going to do their best to make sure he doesn't have those kind of games where he has the 8 and 9 for 100 something yards in this. I just ever since kind of looking at the structure of this thing, I not only do I not think he's going to hit 1,000 yards receiving. And I hope I'm wrong, obviously, but I kind of wonder if he's even going to hit 900. I kind of envision him coming in around 850 or so.
Dave, Pickens had 900 yards last year, and he missed 3 games, and he certainly saw all the attention because there was nothing else to cover in Pittsburgh with worse quarterback play. There's no way, unless it was injury, obviously, but I can't see, even if Metcalf plays 15 games, him getting under 900 yards.
I can be bullied into the 900 number. It's going to be hard to get me to bully past that into the 1,000 yards.
All right. I know I'm just over 1,000, but I'm pretty confident Metcalf's going to be over 1,000 this year.
All right, I hope you're right. How many 1,000-yard receivers were there, wide receivers in the NFL last year? How about that for a question?
Can look it up. What would you guess? I'm going to guess 11. I don't even know.
I was going to go 14 just off the top of my head, but
oh, wow. We were both way off. 24. It's a passing league. We're just not used to passing offenses in our Steelers bubble world.
All right. When was the last time let's see. How many times in the past few years had the Steelers had a 1,000-yard wide receiver?
And while you look at that, by the way, Metcalf was at 992 last year, so it was 8 yards shy. And Jerry Dulac reporting Warren extension through 2027, so just confirming that. Also, he's doing the whole 3-year deal, 2-year deal, new money, old money thing. So just a note on.
Let's see. Pickens in 2023 had 1,140 yards. Obviously, really super. A lot of big catches. That season. 2022, the Steelers did not have a 1,000-yard receiver. 2021, Deontay Johnson had 1,161 on 107 catches. Boy, and he had 8 touchdowns that season. 2020, no 1,000-yard receiver. 2019, none. So,
19 was a quarterback hell that year. So.
Right. 2018, you had 2 guys, obviously, in Juju and Antonio Brown. You're gonna have to bully me a little bit more in the next several days to get me to 1,000 yards on DK Metcalf.
What would be your official prediction if you had to do a yardage prediction on Metcalf this year? I'm at 1,006. What say you?
895.
895. What is that over 17 games? 52.6.
All right.
If he has one or two big
I,
games alone,
I hope
but
I'm wrong. I just think they're going to
point
spread
taken.
this football and get around, I really
I
do.
agree. I agree. But your number one is still your number one, and Rodgers knows where that bread is buttered. I think it's going to be more of a Rodgers thing, making sure he gets the ball even more so than an Arthur Smith thing, making sure he gets the football. But I think the ball gets spread around from there. I have numbers down on Pat Freiermuth, 52 receptions for 535 yards, 10.3 average, and 4 touchdowns. I know he's been really consistent in that 60 reception, 600-yard range, but you can't add Jonnu Smith, and Freiermuth's numbers just don't change at all.
Right.
So I see some reduction there.
I'm okay with the numbers on Freiermuth. I would probably to make up some of those DK Metcalf catches in yards, I'd probably give it a little bit more to Jonnu Smith there. I'd probably put them very, very close together. I'd probably say both of them hit the 50 mark with both those tight ends.
All right. I wonder if Jonnu Smith is going to stay healthy over the course of the entire season. Not that I tried to use health too much as a predictor in this one. I know Smith has been healthy the last 2 years, but he's 30 now. He's an aggressive, physical player. He's got a little bit of a nagging knee injury this summer. Wouldn't be surprised if he missed a little bit of time.
All right. Calvin Austin, we're pretty much in agreement there. I think a lot of people generally overall are overshooting expectations for Calvin Austin, but that's not a bad season. That's kind of what I expect his season to be: 42, 539, 3 touchdowns. That feels right to me.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to last year, and in theory, it might go up because he's now more of a at least clearer number 2 entering this year than he was a year ago. He came on strong at the end when Pickens got hurt, but the extra tight end, Roman Wilson's presence will kind of eat away and kind of wash out Austin's numbers there. So they end up being pretty similar to last season. Jonnu Smith, 39 receptions, 432 yards, 11.1 average, and 3 touchdowns. Maybe those go up a little bit, but I think he might miss a bit of time with an injury.
Yeah, like I said, I'd go up just a tad bit there. I'd get him closer to 50 in my mind. Hopefully he does stay healthy.
And just one sidebar for the exercise, I made sure the passing yards for the quarterbacks, receiving yards for the offense align perfectly. And it's harder than you think, unless you're going to have Rodgers, throw for 4,000 plus yards. I'm trying to get a numbers to all match up and look realistic.
That was how we. That's how we. I unfortunately ambushed Ross on that.
Yeah, right. Roman Wilson, his stats, that'll be one to watch this year. I'm predicting 26 receptions, 315 yards, 12.1 average, and 1 touchdown. Would you sign up for those numbers if you could guarantee and lock those numbers in, or would you gamble and hope for something better than 26, 315, and 1?
I would try to gamble for another touchdown or 2, but if I had to take the stat line, this is another guy I think people are expecting a little bit. I think they're a little bit too bullish. I think some people think he's going to get 40, 45, and obviously barring injury to guys like Austin and Metcalf and all like that. This your stat line there is about kind of what I'm thinking for Roman Wilson this season.
I would sign up for that just after a lost rookie year, given the structure of this offense, kind of rotating in with Calvin Austin. The touchdowns, they get spread around. Could he catch 2 or 3? You never know. But 26, 315, they're not big numbers, but they're certainly a step in the right direction. They're more than what Austin had in his second year after coming off his lost rookie season.
Okay.
Granted, Roman Wilson's not playing with a worse quarterback situation and not stuck in Matt Canada's offense, but I'll take those numbers all the same. Gainwell, 25 receptions. It could be higher. I felt like maybe it could be higher, but I think he will certainly be a concerted asset in this passing game, but still, how much is he going to play is going to be, a governor on his stats.
Could you see him averaging 2 receptions a game, so 34 for the season?
I could. I mean, it may be where he catches 4 one game and then 1 the next, and they all balance out. So, yeah, that is certainly possible. I had Warren with 38 receptions. I didn't know if Gainwell's going to get right there because Warren's going to play more, so naturally going to catch the ball more in a third down role. So it would not surprise me if Gainwell was in that 30 to 35 range by season's end.
I'd like to take some of those carries that you gave to Kenneth Gainwell and turn them into receptions, I think.
And this assumes everyone's healthy, and obviously there's an injury in front, and numbers are going to go up for anybody. And
it never goes this way, obviously.
No,
this is just start of season, optimistic, everybody stays healthy, but this is just big picture, our kind of thoughts on individual over others.
And I know I was the one who's talked so much about could Gainwell be that first Steelers back to have more receptions than rushes, and it's still possible. But just looking at the math more and more, it didn't turn out that way. But he'll be an asset in this offense. I think they'll be looking for occasional ways to get him the football.
All right,
And then,
Darnell. That's
yeah,
an interesting discussion.
23 receptions, 247 yards, 10.8 average, and 2 touchdowns. So bettering his numbers across the board last year, but not significantly so.
Yeah, this another one that people say, oh, okay, they're going to get him the ball more. They know they got to get him the ball more. This, that. But I mean, this guy's prime value to this team is blocking. Now, do they need to utilize him more in the passing game than they have? Yes, I agree with that. What is 1.5? Let's see, 1.5 times 17. That would be 24, right? Or
Sounds
24,
right.
25. How about I throw the fans a bone and go a little bit more than what you have there, and that helps also take away a little bit from DK Metcalf, who I expect to be a little low in the yardage there. So I'll go 25 receptions for him to say 260 yards, and I like the 2 touchdowns.
All right, yeah. I mean, could it be a little bit more? It certainly could. But like you said, the tight ends that are there, the block first nature, the run heavy nature of this offense, just as long as there's a better, more consistent effort and he doesn't fall off the map the way that he fell off the map last year, if those things can be avoided, then I'll be probably happy overall.
All right, the one other one really before I know we got to kind of move things along here, but I want to talk about Scotty Miller here. We talked about all the snaps that he played last year and kind of the empty routes basically overall. We've seen this for multiple years now with guys like Allen Robinson and who else?
Van Jefferson
Van
last year.
Jefferson, definitely, and even Scotty Miller, last year and all like that. We've heard all this praise coming out about from Aaron Rodgers, what a dependable guy he is, and ability to make playmakers and how smart he is and all like that. You can't have all that lip service and not use him a little bit more than 14 receptions for 166 yards if you're going to roster a player like that, especially one that isn't prime special teams material and all like that. Look, there's probably going to be a game or two where Scotty Miller's just a flat out healthy scratch, right? Potentially.
Yeah, right. So do you think these numbers are too conservative, too optimistic?
I still think they're a little bit too conservative, man. If
Okay.
you're going to roster a guy like that, you're going to talk about how smart a player he is. And look, this guy is a playmaker when you can get him the ball.
He's fast. He flies, man.
Right. I'm going to take the over there. I'm going to optimistically take the over there. I'm going to say something around the lines of 20 catches for 200 yards and 1 touchdown. He's going to break one of those there. So and once again, this is me subtracting a little bit at a time from Metcalf and and along those lines there. So I'm going to say 20 for, let's say, what did I see, 220 or something like that for Miller. You can't roster a player like that, talk about playmaker and how smart he is, and then throw him out there. How many snaps did he play last year, Alex?
Played quite a bit.
Yeah.
I know you talked about it a couple episodes or for several episodes.
I don't want to talk about all these empty routes run,
Yeah, 210 for Scotty Miller offensively last year.
I mean, that's a quarter of the snaps, wasn't it?
A little under a quarter, I think, but thereabouts. I mean, last year,
according to PFR, that's right at 25% of the offensive snaps last year. So if you're going to play him another quarter of the snaps, which sounds about right? 200 snaps for him.
If everyone's healthy, yeah, it's maybe a little high if everyone's healthy, but we know that's not going to be the case. Yeah, just short answer, sure, that seems reasonable.
And the attachment to Arthur Smith and you got to do better than last year, I think. So I'm gonna go over your number there.
I mean, I have him doing better than last year. Last year, he caught 5 passes for 69 yards.
Right.
And they said the same things last year. He's, week 1 game, like, he's so smart, he's so versatile, he's our gunner, he's our holder, he made a catch. I mean, I get all that. And you're right, I certainly could see him going above that. I think he'll have one game where he just pops, and Aaron Rodgers talks about, man, Scotty Miller, what a guy. We love him. He's already praised him this offseason. So the numbers may be conservative. Again, this is all depending on health partially. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. I think he certainly could surpass my projection.
If he doesn't hit the marks that I'm laying out there of your over, then hopefully he's not playing 25% of the snaps to go along with it.
Sure. But my projection has him almost tripling his catches from a year ago and more than doubling his yards. Granted, it's from a low starting point, but there is at least a bump in production that reflects the potential connection with Aaron Rodgers.
Is there something there that the Steelers should utilize? I don't want to say secret weapon. Scotty Miller's not going to, be on people's list of, the Steelers secret weapon. But is there more to him that, and I think we both agree that should and could potentially be utilized with him?
Yeah, there's some value in a more open passing offense. The numbers will just go up. He's just a number 4-ish 5 receiver on a run-heavy offense, so it's just hard to get those numbers. But he's talented. I mean, he's smart. He's, like I said, he might be the fastest receiver in that room, which is saying a lot because Roman can run and Austin can run, and of course DK can run. But Miller, I mean, you watch this guy camp. This dude just blows by people like true track speed. So yeah, there's some utilization there, but it's an offense that's not super conducive to number 4, number 5 receivers.
Do you believe? I mean, are you buying all the lip service from Aaron Rodgers and stuff? And Scotty was with them obviously and working it out in the offseason, what little bit they did away from the club and all like that. Is there more? I guess where I'm going is are you buying the Aaron Rodgers, Scotty Miller, bro love?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that respect is real, but it doesn't always mean you're going to get on the field and going to get the ball and all that kind of stuff. He's still not playing a ton this year. So the numbers to me reflect an increase in production, which is based off of the Rodgers-Miller connection there. But you're still a number 4, number 5 receiver in an Arthur Smith offense. You're not catching a ton of balls. But if Miller beats that number, especially if there's injuries, yeah, I can see certainly Miller surpassing my totals.
Let's see. Combined, you have Connor Hayward and Ben Skowronek, 13 catches for 99 yards. That's
you think that's too low?
No, I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay.
If we're going to do an over under, I don't want to do it on them individually. I want to do it on them collectively, I guess. 13 catches, 99. Can they get to 100 yards and 14 catches for those two combined? Oh, that's good. Those are good lines there.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go over combined. I'll go 15 catches, 105 yards for those two combined.
All right, fair enough. And yeah, Skowronek. Did Skowronek have the same receptions as Scotty last year? 5 for 69. Am I refreshing the page here? Yeah, they both had 5 catches for 69 yards. So how about that? And then Connor had whatever, he had 4 or 6 catches last year. So yeah, I wouldn't stress too much about over under.
Yeah,
not going to be big parts of the offense. Skowronek more of a blocker.
Fun exercise.
Caleb Johnson only 14 receptions. I had his receptions down. I just wonder if that passing game role may not be there for him as a rookie who's struggling and adjusting to the NFL standards.
He's definitely got to earn and get the confidence to get out there in situations where he can do that.
Agreed. Sacks quickly. TJ Watt 17.5. So returning to form, but not quite putting up historically big numbers. Highsmith 8, Hayward 7, Herbig 4.5. What about Keanu Benton? I put him down for 3. He needs more than these 1s he keeps putting up his first 2 seasons.
I would like to increase Herbig by 1.5. I think he can get 6. Okay. I'll subtract 1.5 from Watt, give him 16.
That's fair.
I like Highsmith at 9. I like Cam at 7. Could
Highsmith get double digits? He had 6.
He could.
10 games, and he was hurt last year, and he still put up some numbers.
Yeah. It's all about the groin. I think with him, if he can stay on the field, I like the potential, but I think 9's a safe number. Benton needs to hit that 3, if not 5.5.
He needs to hit 5.5. I put him for 3.
Yeah. Wilson.
I think the inside linebackers are going to blitz more this year, more mugging, more aggression. So I'm putting 3 on Wilson and 2.5 on Patrick Queen. I think combined they had 1 sack between them last year. I think Queen picked it up, maybe Wilson, but I'm going to stick my neck out and say inside linebacker pressure heavy this year. These 2 athletic linebackers.
They should at least get 1 each from a cleanup or something.
Right, but I think you're going to see a considered effort to rush these guys and be more in vogue with those double A-gap muggers that really stress protections.
Derek Harmon, 2.5.
It seems low, but MCL injury and rookie defensive linemen have not put up big sack numbers under Mike Tomlin. Hargrave, I think, is the leader with 2 of high draft picks. I know Harmon's going to play more than some of those guys who were blocked by veterans of yesteryear, but I think 2.5 is a reasonable number. It sounds low, and it is, but I'd take them. Would you take that, or would you gamble for more on Harmon?
I'd probably take that because one of the things too was cleaning up those things in college too, right? How many sacks did he let get away from him?
Sure. So I think 2.5 because when's he even going to play? I mean, I was not going to play
Right.
week 1. I don't even think week 2 is a guarantee. I'm thinking more like week 3, week 4 is whenever he actually gets back and plays.
Okay.
I had YA Black
I
at
see
2.
where coming out of preseason, we're all wearing glass half full glasses when it comes to black. I think he can hit 2. I'd be happy with that.
And then Ramsey 2, Sawyer 1.5, and Thornhill with a half sack. Get you to 55 total, which is probably a little optimistic, but not crazy unrealistic.
Man, if they can hit that number, I mean, it definitely needs to be back over 50 again.
Yeah, at least get it to 50. And then interceptions, Ramsey with 5. Anyway, that discussion, he's never had more than 4 in a season. I'll say he gets 5 this year. Slay, Elliott, Porter with 2, and then a bunch of guys with 1.
How many total was that for the team?
15.
And what was it last year?
17, I believe.
I'd be willing to trade off. Would I be willing to trade off more sacks for fewer interceptions?
I mean, yes, turnovers
Yeah.
versus sacks. I mean, what you rather have, but it's not really how the exercise works necessarily.
Yeah. I'll give Porter 1 more.
3. He's got 2 in his
3.
career.
I know.
You think Gerald Alexander's going to fix that? Get him playmaking?
Yeah, I'll take
All
1
right.
more there. Juan Thornhill is going to get some gifts of some balls in here, so I'll take 1 more for Thornhill there. You got YA.
I got YA Black, but he's going to be some weird moment where he finds his belly.
I'll go 1 more for Porter, and I'll go 1 more for Thornton.
All right, so you're at 17 for your
Right.
total, matching last year's. All right. And I think I have Chris Boswell with 35 field goals, Pittsburgh 392 points, an average of 23.1 per game, slight uptick from a year ago that would have ranked 13th league-wide last year.
Let's see. We got some early numbers here on Jaylen Warren, I think. Alex, you want to rattle those off there?
I'm looking at it right now. Ian Rappaport, 2-year deal that pays him over $7 million this year and includes $12 million guaranteed. So I don't know if we have an official average yearly value on that. Pays him over $7 million this year, so we don't really have a whole lot of details in terms of what that is, signing bonus and base salary.
I said that he'd get probably around an extra $2 million this year, right? So I'm about hit it on that.
12 million guaranteed. I mean, that's signing bonus plus I assume this year's base salary guaranteed.
Right.
And don't know what else, if anything else.
All right. So I was about there on, let's see, pays him $7 million this year and includes $12 million guaranteed. So his base salary and his signing bonus, maybe they didn't do anything with lowering down maybe they're just using some additional cap space there on him. If it includes $12 million guaranteed, that's got to be year 1 money, right?
Yeah, so his cap hit's not going down this year.
Here's the thing. They might be phrasing this too with some injury guarantees
right.
They might be mixing in. Yeah, it's hard to discern anything from that 12 million guaranteed unless we know fully guaranteed.
Yeah, and I doubt it's fully guaranteed. Maybe I'm wrong, but that seems a little rich on a full guarantee. So we don't know average yearly value yet. We just need some more information on the deal, I think.
All right.
And then, so like I said, 23.1 points per game, 13th league-wide. If I told you 23.1 points per game, you could lock that in today. Would you take it or would you bet for more?
Say again?
23.1 points per game for Pittsburgh this year. Would you guarantee that if I could guarantee that to you, or would you say let's bet and hope Pittsburgh can beat that mark.
I'd roll the dice, I think.
I'd take it. I'd sign up if I could guarantee that. I think 23.1, which is about an average to above average number for an offense in the NFL with this defense. That's playoffs right there.
All
right, Dave. Anything else here to talk about?
Man, what an exciting morning this one turned out to be. I always like doing those over-unders with you. Glad you got that knocked out for us to discuss that. We had some good interruption there with the Jaylen Warren and got some initial numbers out there on that. What else did we do today?
That was kind of the big stuff. I mean,
what have we got going on tonight?
Yeah, we have our live stream tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll talk about the Jaylen Warren extension, and I'm sure we'll probably hear from Jaylen Warren today. So that'll be a fun moment for everybody. And then we'll do our Steelers official predictions for Friday's show. I'm guessing our final win-loss record, playoffs, how far will they go, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep, exactly.
Do you have an idea of what your prediction is, or are you still kind of sitting in that stew?
I'm stewing a little bit still.
Are you debating between like 2 wins, like a number between like 9 and 10?
Hey,
10,
it's
11,
1 win.
or...
It's 1 win either way.
What about playoffs? Do you give a good confident, okay, they're going to win a playoff game, or I'm confident they're not going to win a playoff game? Where are you sitting on that?
I'm not going to reveal anything on that. Listen in on Friday.
You know how to tease the audience. All right, Dave, let's wrap up today's show with some reader emails.
I don't know if we have a lot of them here. Let me double check real quick here.
And I should have said it properly. Let's close out today's show with some reader emails. Shame on me for not getting my tagline.
Bill Barish writes in, question, love the show, been listening since COVID hit. You are by far the most knowledgeable and entertaining Steelers experts. Thanks for that, Bill. It was mentioned on the latest podcast about Will Howard not being able to practice with the team while on IR. My question is can he work with a private quarterback coach during this time to stay sharp and get reps? If so, in theory, the team could give him homework on and he could do with personal coach. Looking for your insights. That would certainly be, I don't know the answer to that, but I would imagine they have him, look, he can't officially practice with the team. I don't know how much you want to give him leeway for him potentially getting injured outside of the facility doing that. I would imagine, though, he's throwing on the side still and doing some of those things. How do you feel about, can he work with a private quarterback coach and stay sharp? I mean, they could do drills, I would imagine, and do stuff like that. But I mean, he's going to be
practice or with a quarterback coach?
Not practice. I mean,
Okay.
outside, but he's going to be pretty busy in team meetings and rehab and all like that. I guess the question is whether he could and whether he will.
Could he? I don't know legality on that. I imagine if it's not in the team facility and it's on his own time truly and there's no team affiliation, yes, he could. What would be the rule that says he can't go in his backyard and throw with a quarterback coach? I don't know how much these guys work with their quarterback coaches, their private ones, during the season. Probably not a lot because they're working with their team quarterback coach, especially for a rookie to do that. I'm not even sure if Howard has a dedicated quarterback coach or not. So it's more of an off-season thing. But from the team standpoint, you don't want this guy doing things that may run afoul of the medical advice and his reps and his plans. So you're probably not doing that stuff on the side unless it is truly coordinated. But yeah, as you said, Howard, we saw him throwing a little bit the other day, but that was before he went on IR. He can't, he could probably play toss on the side, but he obviously can't practice in any capacity with a team while on IR. So yeah, the throws will be very limited, I imagine.
All right, Caleb Zaborski writes in, good morning. I was wondering if you guys go anywhere such as a Steelers bar or fan club to watch any of the games. Also, do either of you own any jerseys, and which one is your favorite? My Steeler bar and fan club days are long behind me. I watch the games at home. I stay at home a lot, period. I don't go to bars, period. I do go to Jackson's on Saturday and get breakfast, but I suppose you'd call that a bar. But also, no, I don't own any jerseys at this point. Alex, I know you don't go into any bar or fan clubs to watch any of the games. How about you and your jersey collection?
Yeah, we are certainly not stuck, but we stay at home to write and work, and that's kind of how we do our thing. Yeah, I'm not haven't bought a jersey in a while. I have some as a kid. I mean, I have my Cheaty jerseys. I got the game worn one. I picked up a training camp a couple of years ago. That's framed downstairs. I have an autographed one from a kid. So got my Cheaty jerseys. I have some other ones. I don't know. I might even have a Willie Parker one buried somewhere in my closet, but have not bought a jersey in a hot minute.
Same here. All right. We'll wrap up the show with those 2 email questions there. So as Alex said, we'll have a live stream Q&A on Alex's YouTube channel at 7 Eastern time tonight. I think that's right about the time or right before North Carolina kicks off tonight with Bill Belichick making his college head coaching debut. You can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, follow the same directions. Hit the ad-free button on the navigational bar. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.